Not everything on the internet can be found on Google. There is a special area that can only be accessed with special anonymous browsers, and only if you know the exact address where you need to go. This part of the internet is often used for a variety of illegal and sometimes even terrible things. After all, it allows criminals to remain anonymous. In today's video, I'm going to tell you about what goes on there and how. These are 10 interesting facts about Darknet. What Darknet is and how it works, I will not go into technical details. I'll just try to get the gist of it. Everything you do on the regular internet leaves traces on it in one way or another. All of your Google searches, the history of your visits to various sites, and so on. You can always be tracked down if someone really needs to. This does not suit many people who, for one reason or another, need maximum anonymity. Therefore, such people in the 90s developed a special method of transferring data on the internet, which is called onion routing. Onion routing is called it for a reason. An onion has many layers. So data transmission on the Darknet also goes through many layers. To make it very simple, by going through each layer, information is encrypted and redirected. As a result, it becomes extremely difficult to determine who is the original sender of the information and who is the final recipient. Unlike the usual internet, moreover, this system was created by the US intelligence services to ensure their own anonymity on the internet. However, they faced such a problem. This technology was initially available only to the CIA employees. This was known. Thus, if the administrator of an illegal site saw that his site was accessed by a user using this technology, which is always visible, he could immediately understand that he was a CIA agent, since no one else had access to the technology at the time. So the US Secret Services were forced to put the source code of the technology in free access, so that it could be used by everyone who wanted to. This is the only way to ensure true anonymity for ourselves on Darknet. There are many different sites on Darknet that cannot be accessed using a normal browser such as Chrome or Firefox. To do so, you need to download a special browser for Darknet, the most famous of which is called Tor. It does not differ in appearance from the usual ones, and you can use it to access simple internet sites. Many people also use this browser to visit simple websites in order to remain as anonymous as possible without leaving their traces. The Tor browser is absolutely legal. Anyone can download and install it, and it is not positioned as a browser for Darknet crimes, but as a browser for those who value their privacy the most. It is also used in totalitarian countries, where the state monitors the internet activity of its citizens. So it is not only used for something illegal and bad. In the normal internet, the website addresses end up with domains like .com, .no, and so on, but in the Darknet, almost all sites end up with .onion. And more often than not, site addresses look like a set of random characters. They are some kind of specific names, as in the normal internet. There are relatively few sites with the domain .onion, about 8,000, and only half of them are used for illegal stuff, selling drugs, stolen credit cards, and other stuff. I will tell you more about this in a moment. How do criminals make money on the Darknet? Very simple. They sell various illicit goods through it, primarily drugs, stolen credit cards, personal data, hacking services, and so on. It happens on marketplaces called Marketplace, which look like huge online stores like Amazon, but simpler. Sellers register there and put their products for sale, just like they do on Amazon or eBay. At Marketplace, there are buyers who register and buy things at these sites. All this is paid for with cryptocurrency, mostly bitcoins. That's why it's hard to track such transactions, or even impossible, if the seller and the buyer are very careful. On the marketplace, each seller has a rating, and buyers leave feedback on his product. They evaluate its quality, speed of delivery, packaging, politeness of the seller, and so on. Everything is like on the most ordinary online marketplace. Illegal substances are delivered to buyers in several ways. Often they are simply sent through the mail in sealed bags, in parcels, and the bags are hidden inside, for example, toys or other items of some kind. This is quite a dangerous method of delivery, and the customs often use dogs and other methods to find such parcels with drugs. And after that, the trouble begins. If the seller and the buyer are in the same city, then the bookmarking method is used, which works for the drug dealer. The person hides the bag in some inconspicuous place, for example, taping it under a bench or simply placing it under a large rock, and then the coordinates of this place along with a photo are sent to the buyer. He goes there and collects his goods. This method of delivery also carries its own risks. Police officers are constantly on the lookout for people who are digging in obscure places and looking for something. Those who don't know about this may wonder how it is possible that the police don't shut these sites down. But no, the intelligence services in many countries are actively fighting this and regularly identify the owners of these sites and sellers. There are sophisticated technologies for this. Sometimes they even catch buyers, although law enforcement agencies pay much less attention. Some marketplaces close within a couple of months, while others exist for many years. It all depends on how technologically savvy the owners of the site are. But one site that has closed is always replaced by several new ones, as it is a very profitable business. The owners of the site themselves make money from the commission charged by the seller for the sale of goods. The most famous marketplace that everyone knows about is Silk Road. It no longer exists, and its creator is in prison. But its history is very interesting. In 2011, it was started by a young American named Ross Ulbricht. He was very well educated, had graduated from a prestigious university, and tried to launch several legitimate startups, but he failed. So he decided to use his knowledge to create a marketplace. Silk Road was not the first Darknet site, but it was the first really big one, and it got the attention of everyone, including law enforcement agencies. He ran the site under the nickname Dread Pirate Roberts, and his identity could not be established for years. Ulbricht held libertarian views. In very simple terms, this ideology proclaims that the state should minimally interfere in people's lives, only in the most extreme cases. That is, it should protect the lives and private property rights of citizens, but not interfere in everything else, including not restricting people's freedom to do whatever they want with their bodies, including taking drugs. The purpose of Silk Road, Ulbricht said, was to allow people to buy drugs safely, so they would know exactly what they were buying, and could be assured of quality through the reputation of the sellers and reviews. Libertarians oppose violence, so for ideological reasons, the Silk Road initially banned the sale of weapons and anything that in one way or another involved the exploitation of children. But when Silk Road became huge, when it brought in big money, Ulbricht allowed arms sales on his site, explaining that in this way he was fighting against stricter gun laws in the United States. Silk Road lasted nearly 3 years. Ulbricht managed to catch one ridiculous mistake. He put his nickname on one of the forums on the ordinary internet, also devoted to drugs. At the same time, he had left his personal email address there a long time ago. Thanks to this, he was eventually tracked down. He was arrested in the library with his laptop computer when he logged in as the site administrator. It was later revealed that despite his libertarian views, Ulbricht had ordered and paid for 6 contract murders, none of which were eventually carried out. One of these executors turned out to be an undercover FBI agent. Ulbricht was sentenced to life imprisonment on many counts. Another marketplace story that deserves attention is Alphabay. It opened in 2014, lasted 3 years, and during that time it became huge. The number of products and users on it was 10 times greater than on Silk Road. The U.S. intelligence agencies managed to shut down this site thanks to a series of mistakes made by the owner and creator of this site. This man's name was Alexander Kozis. He was a Canadian born in '91. That is a very young guy at that time. He didn't just name his site Alpha Bay. The word alpha in it means alpha male. A bay means bay. Alexander was obsessed with pickup, that is, with the art of seducing women. He was constantly sitting on pickup forums, where he bragged about his success at it, and even wrote articles on how to do it right. He also complained on the forum about how hard it was for him with Western women, and how easy it was with Asian women. He also sat on a forum that dealt in stolen credit cards. So on all of these sites, which were on the normal internet, he used the nickname Alpha02, the same nickname he used to communicate with users of his marketplace. Alpha B was his public admin nickname. He was generally very attached to the word alpha. So, because of the identical nicknames, the intelligence services realized that it was one and the same person. In the pickup form, they found a link to his Instagram, which he himself had posted. In it, he showed his posh, rich life, many expensive cars, expensive clothes, beautiful women, and real estate in many countries. And he himself lived in Thailand, most likely because there are a lot of relatively affordable, beautiful girls there. But this evidence was not enough. Unfortunately for Alexander, he made another mistake at the very beginning of Alpha B. emails confirming registration on the site, as well as emails resetting the password, came to users from his personal email, pimp.alex91@hotmail.com. This was then quickly corrected. However, the police found out about it, and the FBI contacted the email provider Hotmail to get information about the owner of that email, Alexander. As a result, they found data about the servers in his name, located in Canada, where the Alpha B site was located. The FBI had direct full access to them. Alexander himself suspected nothing of this. On a certain day and hour, the FBI set up an artificial failure of the site servers. Alexander found out about it and logged onto the server from his computer while at home in Thailand. After waiting for him to log in, the Thai police had a loud crash near his house, crashing into his gate. Alexander immediately got up from behind his computer to see what had happened, but he left his laptop with the site control panel open. When he left the house, he was arrested. Thanks to the open laptop, the FBI had all the information they needed, as well as access to Alexander's vast amount of bitcoins. He was placed in a Thai prison, from where he was to be extradited to the United States. One night, however, he took his own life. That was the story of a pickup artist who loved to brag. When the police close another marketplace darknet, then new ones take its place, and sellers who have made a good reputation on the closed marketplace simply go to the new site. They do not have to start over, because the buyers of the closed marketplace will also move to the new site and continue to buy their illegal goods from their trusted sellers. This went on for years, and the intelligence services needed to create a new strategy to combat the marketplace on the darknet, and they came up with one. Their job was to make sure that sellers no longer felt safe, that they developed a real paranoia, so that it wasn't just marketplace owners who were concerned about their security, but sellers and buyers as well. So, shortly before Alpha Bay was shut down, the German and Dutch secret services managed to break in and take full control of another marketplace. It was called Ganzo and was much smaller than Alpha Bay, but it was popular too. The Interpol workers continued to maintain the site, gaining all the admin access, and began posing as the real administrators of the resource. Those were already caught and arrested. The Secret Service workers understood that after Alpha Bay had been closed, the sellers and buyers would immediately leave for other sites, including Ganzo. Hackers from the Secret Services modified the Ganzo site in such a way that all passwords, logins, and messages on the site came to them in unencrypted form. In this way, they had at their disposal the logins and passwords of the sellers. Some of these logins and passwords turned out to have been used by drug traffickers on other similar sites. Employees of the intelligence services logged into these accounts on other sites, changed their passwords, and continued their activities, collecting orders from buyers. Accordingly, they obtained the real names, surnames, and addresses of those who bought the substances. Then the police came to their homes and the evidence of their guilt. Thanks to all this was enough, Hansa continued to operate under the control of the Secret Services for a while, collecting more and more information about the addresses and names of buyers, after which it was closed on the main page. A message was posted on the closed site saying that Hansa had been under the control of the Secret Services for several months. So if you bought anything on it during that time, they know everything about you, your name and address. There was even a list of names and addresses of some users right on the main page. All of this led to dozens of ostentatious arrests of buyers all over Europe and the US. And as a consequence, a lot of people stopped using the illegal darknet marketplaces, fearing for their security. The authorities did not manage to defeat this type of business completely on Darknet, but they certainly managed to scare the hell out of all those who were involved in it in one way or another, and get them hooked on treason. That is what they wanted to do. As you can see, the intelligence services are quite active in fighting against illegal darknet marketplaces and are constantly closing them down. But this is not the only reason why these marketplaces are shut down. More often than not, they are shut down by the owners themselves, even if the marketplace is successful. And now I'll tell you why they do it. Here's the thing. When users of a marketplace want to buy some product, they first need to top up their balance on this site. That is to transfer cryptocurrency to a certain wallet belonging to the site owners. Then this amount will appear on the buyer's balance, and he can buy his illegal goods there. And after the transaction, this money goes to the seller's balance, and he can already withdraw it to his personal crypto purse. In this case, most often the seller receives his money on the balance only when the buyer has confirmed the receipt of the goods, which may take weeks. Until then, this money is sort of held and frozen. being held by the site owners themselves. I hope I didn't explain it too complicated. So it turns out that all the money on the user's balance, as well as all the frozen funds, are in fact in the hands of the site owners, and they can take it away at any time without any problems and just abscond with it. This is called exit skimming, and in fact, all marketplaces are now created with this very goal, to recruit as many users and sellers as possible, so that the site is popular and a lot of money flows through it, and at the very peak, just take all the sellers' and buyers' money to themselves in the form of cryptocurrency, close the site, and disappear. We are talking about tens of millions of dollars here. So many take such risks. For the sake of this, most of the large marketplaces are not shut down by the FBI, but rather cease to exist because of exit scams. In their place, new ones immediately appear, created with exactly the same goal, but always at the beginning claiming that they are not and will always work honestly. As you have already realized, mainly illegal psychoactive substances are sold on the dark trading sites. This is the main commodity, but it is by no means the only one. In addition to drugs, for example, high-quality fake documents are sold there. Passports, Idaho, cards and driving licenses, and even higher education diplomas. A very popular commodity there is data on stolen credit cards, and they are sold in large quantities, 100 or more, as there is a high probability that many of them have already been blocked by the time they are sold to their owners. They also sell supposedly lifetime subscriptions to paid services like Netflix. And it works very simply. You create a Netflix account and attach a stolen credit card to it. This account is sold to the customer. Such an account could work for several years or just a month. The cardholder can notice that money is being withdrawn from his account and block the card. But there are many rich Americans who don't keep track of all the small transactions on their account, and so pay for years for someone else's subscription. There are also, shall we say, illegal explicit videos and photos of minors being sold there, but this is strictly forbidden on many sites because it attracts special attention from law enforcement. Also in the Darknet is very developed trade in exotic animals, such as crocodiles, lions, tigers, monkeys, and so on. It's hard for me to imagine how delivery of this unusual live goods is organized, especially to other countries. It is very easy to buy at Darknet the services of hackers for any job, whether it's hacking something with your computer or your girlfriend's social network account. They also sell a variety of malicious programs such as viruses and Trojans. In general, the catalog of illegal products on the Darknet is really big. Who are the drug dealers on the internet? What do these people look like? It turns out that teenagers can also be successful internet drug dealers. In 2015, a young boy named Maximilian Schmitz was arrested in Germany. He was already 20 at the time, but had been selling drugs online for 17 years. During those 3 years, the future miner had sold almost 1 ton of various psychoactive substances and made over 4 million euros. Of course, he didn't produce them himself. He just bought them from manufacturers and sold them to end users. All this time, he lived with his mother. She didn't even suspect any of this. But when the police came to his house, they found in his closet large bags of all kinds of drugs worth more than 2 million euros. The guy had stored his millions in bitcoins, as well as in bank accounts opened with forged documents in various countries around the world. He was found out because several parcels he had sent came to the wrong place, and people turned to the police when they found drugs there. And the police looked at the security tapes from the post office where he was sending his packages and caught him. During his trial, he did not show any remorse and was even proud of what he had done. He was sentenced to 7 years in prison. However, he was released early after 4 years. A documentary about him was recently released on Netflix, where he details how he pulled it all off. And you can see that he is really proud of it. By the way, a new criminal case has now been opened against him in Germany because he is suspected of having started selling drugs on the internet again, right after he got out of prison. He denies all accusations, as he doesn't want to go to prison anymore. There are different ways of thinking about the fact that illegal psychoactive substances are sold on the Darknet. Not everyone thinks it is a bad thing. However, there is a service being actively sold on the Darknet that directly endangers people's lives. I'm talking about the services of hired killers. There are such offers on popular marketplaces, and there are entire separate sites on the Darknet, which allegedly belong to the assassins and through which they sell their services. The potential customer must provide certain information about the person he wants to eliminate, pay the assassin an impressive amount of money in bitcoins, usually 20,000 to a million, and wait for the order to be fulfilled. But there is one but. With a high degree of probability, you can assume that all such offers from hired killers are a scam. You are either placed by the intelligence services at all to catch those who want to order accounts of the murders. The fact is that such offers on the Darknet have existed for many years, but so far, not a single investigation into a contract killing in any country in the world has come to the conclusion that the person who ordered the killing found the killer on the Darknet. Murder in developed countries is always investigated very seriously, and if there really were real killers selling their services on the Darknet, the police and intelligence services would have found evidence of it one way or another. Let me remind you that when the intelligence services shut down certain marketplaces, they often receive a lot of information about the users and sellers who were operating on these sites, but never once did they report that they managed to obtain any evidence of contract murders being carried out. There is indeed a lot of criminality on Darknet, but still, it is unlikely that killer services are sold there. In fact, it is known for sure that there are fraudulent sites that supposedly sell these services. They receive from their clients an advance payment, or even the full amount for this murder, and then they themselves, anonymously, turn in their clients to the police, taking the money for themselves, of course. And such scammers, by the way, are often ideological. That is, they believe that they are doing a good thing this way, fighting evil. But they also earn a living by punishing bad people. Another even creepier thing that allegedly exists is the so-called Red Room. It is alleged that the Red Room is such sites where something terrible is broadcasted live, namely the torture of people. Allegedly, for the entrance to such a site, it is necessary to pay naturally in cryptocurrency. Moreover, at the Red Room, it is possible to give instructions to the torturer about what to do with his victim, or even auctions are held between viewers. And the higher bid will get the right to say what will happen live on the air. That is, the victims will be tortured the way the highest bidder wants them to be tortured. No one knows for sure if such sites actually exist, or if it's all just a legend. But there have been 2 known cases where unknown people have announced the Red Room on the Darknet, and in advance to attract people here. I will now tell you what came out of that. In 2016, there was a site on the Darknet that said that the owners of this site had captured some Islamic State fighters and were going to torture and eventually kill them, and they were going to do it live on a streamer on the site. There was a countdown timer on the site until the torture started. There were a few days left. The news spread very quickly, and there were many people who wanted to see it. Many thought this was a fair fate for terrorists. When the time came, a video did indeed appear on the website. This is a real screenshot from it. And now I will tell you in words what was going on there. There was a hooded man tied up in the video, and another one who was supposed to be torturing him. However, there was no torture whatsoever. They just put pieces of bacon on a big plate in front of the prisoner, and then the video started to slow down a lot, and it was unclear what was going on there. Then the video resumed again, and this time the prisoner had blood on his hood and was holding his head, and it went on for 10 minutes. Then the video stopped. There is a 99% probability that this video was staged, and that there was no terrorist in the frame, but that it was just a practical joke. Then this Red Room site was shut down by its owners. Another famous Red Room allegedly appeared a year earlier, in 2015. It was called Alicia. It also had a countdown timer, and when entering the site, a 10-minute audio file with someone's screams was played. The site was filled with text in Portuguese. It was various philosophical statements about death and quotes from Nietzsche. But when the time and the timer came to an end, nothing happened. Another smash turned out to be a fake, although there was a lot of hype surrounding it. It is unlikely that Red Room really exists, as I have said before. Intelligence agencies are actively fighting crime in darkness, constantly arresting hackers and drug dealers. But they have never reported that they were able to close or at least prosecute the existence of Red Room. So most likely Red Room is just a creepy and scary legend, and Darknet has nothing to do with reality. At the same time as with the fraudulent sites that supposedly sell the services of hired killers on the Darknet, there are many sites positioning themselves as the very same Red Room, with colorful descriptions of what the viewer will see if he pays to enter it. But this too is all done just to make money off cruelty-loving people. That is a scam, and no access to Red Room, and no one ends up getting any. Have you ever entered the Darknet? If so, why? Write about it in the comments, but be careful. I read all comments, and they also help a lot to promote videos. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and click on the bell if you want to help me get more views. Be relevant and reasonable. This has been Draymanis with you. Bye.